Hilux update video. Nothing has changed, minus some parts we have accumulated for it. So here we go. Alright, so there is a massive list of stuff that needs to get done to this thing. Let me get the whiteboard. That is the list. A lot of stuff. So let me pick the camera up and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about since it's on the list. First thing on the list, since this thing is a left-hand drive vehicle, driver's side hub. While it has a new locking hub and all the bolts are in it, and it looks like it has been in with new seals and stuff. When we first got it, all of these tins were barely started and it has no grease seeping out of it. I know what you're thinking, like, oh, that's a good thing. I'm talking they are dry as a bone. If you've ever had Toyota solid front axles, those should have some kind of grease on them. So I imagine they're low on grease. Also, that hasn't been ran up in a while, so I don't trust it. Passenger side hub rebuild. 2 broken bolts there. Doesn't look like it, but those are not down all the way. Mismatched bolt, random bolt that looks like it's from a fender of a newer Toyota. And then the inside here, while it does have goop all over it, literally dry. So that needs to get redone. Rear drive shaft U-joint. This is probably the worst one I have ever seen that is not broken. Look at that. That ain't ideal. So while I have the drive shaft off, I'm gonna change all of the U-joints on the entire thing. Next on the list is the front driver shaft U-joints. While they are good, if I'm doing U-joints, I'm gonna do all the U-joints. Rear drive shaft, carrier bearing. Practically, yeah, that's bad. Next on the list is the trans mount. This one's got rubber hose shoved in it so it doesn't make noise. Changing that guy out. Next 2 things on the list, rear diff, front diff. While there's nothing wrong with them, if I'm pulling apart all of this stuff anyways to rebuild hubs, rebuild axles, might as well put lockers in it. So over here, I have bought 2 Toyota 8-inch e-lockers. So there we go. This one was a 488, really bad years obviously. This one was a factory 391, I believe, but that doesn't matter because that has 456s in it. So we'll take the gears out of that, put them on here. East Coast Gear Supply locker harnesses, and now we are front and rear locked Toyota diesel manual 4-door Hilux. Next ones I can't really show you. That's a transfer case fluid, transmission fluid, and an oil change. All the fluids. Let's just say all the fluids are gonna get changed. Every single one. Next thing on the list is clock the turbo and do new oil feed and drains on this. I'll show you why. Whoever put this turbo on doesn't have the center section clocked right. So see how that oil drain, this gold wrapped thing here, is at an angle? It needs to be straight up and down. Otherwise, that happens. So whoever put this on here just didn't know. So that's your oil feed and that's your oil drain. That drain needs to be down. They just didn't know to clock this the right way. So we're gonna make all new lines, and I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna replace this turbo because it is some kind of Amazon cheap thing. So we will replace it with a better turbo. Next thing is EBrake. I've already fixed the brake in the rear because someone put new EBrake shoes on it, but they didn't hook the cables back up, which makes no sense. And then also the cable that comes from the rear all the way up into the cab where you pull the handle out, the little ball on the end of the cable is broke off. Found one in Dubai, like all the other parts, but the shipping is ridiculous. So I have on order a 1992 Toyota pickup truck from the US. Fingers crossed that it works. If not, we'll see if we can modify it to make it work, because it was literally $20 and the one I found in Dubai was $60, something like that, and the shipping was $60. So hopefully we can get out with just using a USDM EBrake so this thing can have an EBrake. Next thing is all this turbo intercooler and piping and all of this. That ain't good. This rubbing on the valve cover gasket's not good. Don't even know what this pipe is from. That's not good. This right here is the factory box that's been turned. Gonna eliminate that. Not too upset with how that's routed, but we'll just do new piping with that. And I don't know why it has a coupler there. Why can't it just be one piece? New intercooler. I cannot figure out what vehicle this came off of. It is not a Toyota intercooler. It's off something. I've searched Saab, Subaru, BMW, Mercedes, you name it. I've tried figuring out what this intercooler came off of. Whatever vehicle it is, I'd like to find a new one. So the fins actually work. So the hood scoop, which will cut in even bigger, actually blows cool air on it. And then not seen is, I don't know if I can get it way back in there. I can get it. If I get the camera to focus. The snorkel here is not connected to the intake. It's like came off. So yeah. Hopping on to the inside here. It doesn't have a radio in it. It's just got a blank off plate. So we're gonna put a radio in it so it can have music. Another thing on the inside are the driver and passenger seats. It's kind of hard to catch it on video, but you see how the driver's seat's angled back and so is the passenger seat. When you're sitting in it, you kind of want to fall towards the inside. So pretty much you just sit in the back seat, put my feet on here, and squat the seats back to square. In the back here, we're gonna make a headache rack with a back glass protector and two bars that come down on each side. And then in the back here, this used to be the spare tire mount. I'm not happy with that at all, so we'll make a spare tire mount with that headache rack I just mentioned, or on the back here, we'll utilize this rear bumper and make a swing out that holds a tire and some jerry cans or something. Not sure what I want to do there yet. I don't know if I want to do a swing out on this. I need to test this winch and make sure the winch is good, and also do something about this. I might splice in a soft shackler or something on the end of it. I don't know, but handle that winch situation. We're gonna do some lights on the front of this. I do not want to replace those factory ones with like LEDs. I hate that. I want to keep it classic looking. So what we're gonna do is get some period correct lights for the front bumper here. Also may do some lights across the headache rack, I'm not sure. And then on the rear, way back here, there's a cut-in for a factory rear fog light. I think we'll find a light that fits in there. Put one there and there for some reverse lights. Next thing on the list was emblems and door decals. We already took the door decals off. Emblems, I could only find one that it wasn't a ridiculous price. So Jill made up some vinyl Hilux. Boom, there you go. One on that fender. One on that fender. And then she made me that as well. That way, if other people drive this truck and they fill it up, they do not put regular gasoline in a diesel truck That way, and you also let people know it's a diesel Hilux that way too. Next thing on the list is just brakes. I'm just gonna check the brakes out when everything's coming apart. Next one is the skid for the radiator. So, leaning underneath here, nice shiny aluminum radiator is just hanging out. So make a skid plate to protect that. Next thing underneath the truck is the transmission cross member here. They notoriously hang super low. It's the lowest thing on the vehicle. Bud Built makes one that is super thin that replaces it. I might just make my own out of some DOM and kind of make a whole like belly pan situation under here. Not sure, might leave it, just mentioning it because we don't know what we're gonna do yet. The other thing is wheels and tires. The factory surf style here with the 31 KM3s aren't big enough for me. I don't know if you saw already and noticed, but I've already got some tires back there. They measure out to like 33.8s. They're Goodyear Wranglers. They decent tread on them, bought them used. They were super cheap. They're bigger than 31s. What can you do? And then for wheels, I think I'm just gonna pick up some Steelies. Amazon has them like stupid cheap. I've got a bunch of wheel contracts with people, but I can't beat like $68 a wheel. It'd be cool to put really cool wheels in this, but I want to kind of keep it correct. What's better than a nice Toyota than steel wheels? So we'll do that. The other thing is clean up the electrical on this. It's got a bunch of quick splices and random wires, especially under the dash. No idea what they're going to. So we're gonna track all that stuff down, make the electrical more simple. There's no reason to have random wires going places. So we'll clean up the electrical through the entire truck, just so we don't have problems on the trail or the road. Another exterior mod here is fender tubes. We're going straight Australian style. We're gonna do tubes that come off of the bumper right there, come straight back down a couple like little 45s or something, and then tie into the slider. And then in the rear, we will kind of do the same thing. It'll come off the slider there, up, over, down the bed, and then back into the bumper. So that way, it's Australian style. We can rub stuff and it won't hurt this thing, but we might be a little late for that considering fenders are chewed up pretty good, but we'll do them anyway. Diesel filter as well. The diesel fuel filter is very old. I don't trust it. It looks kind of aftermarket. Maybe it's factory that's relocated, but it's not stock. I can tell you that because I ordered a stock filter for it and it's nothing like it. So got to pull the number off that filter, replace that. Also really fast underneath is the steering. Nothing wrong with this factory steering. It's actually pretty robust, obviously, but it's got a slight bind in it. Every now and then it feels like it locks for a second and then it'll force pass like something's binding. I've been looking all over it and I can't figure out where it's binding from. So got to figure that out. Yeah. Roof rack on top of it. Pretty sure LFD, talked to Jacob there. 3rd gen Tacoma rack is really close in measurement to this. So we will get one of those, put it on the roof, drill holes wherever the holes are, make backing plates, like pulling the headliner down, making like sandwich plates, and sandwich us a roof rack on this bad boy as well. Next thing, see if you guys can notice what's different. Do that like grade school thing. What's different on this side of the truck than this side? The mirrors. So this side has a USDM mirror. I know because we have a 94 Toyota pickup here. USDM mirror. Toyota Hilux mirror. Finding those is harder than you think. And the next one on top of everything else we talked about is hood pins. We're gonna put hood pins on this. Yes, I'm gonna drill through the Toyota hood. Oh my gosh, it's okay. It's the same thing as a USDM one. It's not that big of a deal because I don't trust this factory latch. I can't get it. I've tried adjusting it. It doesn't want to stay latched. A latch from Toyota, almost $200. At least the ones I've been looking up online. Hood pins, $25. and it never comes up, and you can check while you're in the seat if they're attached. So we're putting hood pins on. Brake lines on this as well. They have factory rubber ones on there from 1992. So we'll do stainless steel brake lines on it. I'll just make some up here. While we're doing turbo stuff, we're gonna fix this downpipe, because that is horrible. You might know what that is. Don't mind that little bracket. You might know what that is. And that is a plumbing fitting, like a schedule whatever iron plumbing fitting. No, not on my truck. While I was under here looking at the next thing I was going to talk about, I just so happened to notice I found out where my steering bind is coming from. Let me see if I can show you. Flip the camera. So these older solid axle Toyotas have a steering box, but it's mounted different than a Jeep because you don't have a drag link going between the two. But it pushes back and forth over to the knuckle, and then you have your tie rod. It's binding right here. When this is pushing back, it's hitting the leaf spring thing there. It's very odd. I don't think I've ever seen that hit right there. I'll have to look into that. While we're talking exhaust for the downpipe, this thing has no less than 10 different pieces of tube throughout the entire thing. And then what gets really good is in the back here. More plumbing fittings. So we're gonna cut this entire exhaust out from the turbo all the way back, make a downpipe. We're gonna make a actual exhaust for it. I think I'm gonna keep the little downturn at the end. Not this one, this design, because that's actually pretty cool. So yeah, it'll be straight pipe from turbo back. So we'll hear that turbo spool and whine as we go. I'm gonna undercoat the entire truck. It looks horrible right now because it's really dirty, but it's actually not that bad, surprisingly. As far as like rust goes, because this thing lived in North Carolina, well, lived in Holland first of all, because it came from Holland. Then it lived in North Carolina. Then it lived in Connecticut for a while, and then it lived out in Utah. So lots of salt, lots of snow, lots of that kind of stuff. And it's just really dirty. It needs to be pressure washed, and we're going to undercoat the entire bottom of the truck so I don't have to worry about it for years to come. Fuel tank skid. Needs a fuel tank skid. It's got this little rock plate that keeps rocks from bouncing up and hitting the skid, but there's nothing. As you can see, it has been scraped plenty of times. So we're gonna make a fuel tank skid. I don't know of any in the aftermarket for this. Imagine it's the same tank as one of those. I don't think it might make anything. So we're just gonna make something. It's not gonna be fancy. It's gonna be just enough to protect the bottom. Get all the belts under the hood. Every single one of them. I was told this one, way before I even bought the thing, this broke off while they were training, and it's a little control arm and mount to keep the axle and springs from wrapping as you go. It broke off, and some one-armed, two-fingered blind man welded it back on. So we're gonna zap that sucker off. We'll keep this, but we'll make a whole new arm and actually weld it. Almost getting to the end of the list here. Still have lots of things to go. All of the coolant hoses under the hood are gonna get replaced. Even the ones that look like they've been replaced are super swollen, super soft. Like that one still has the Napa logo on it, and they're swollen and soft. So every single rubber coolant hose under the hood, replacing that thing too, or those things like this annoy me. Black handle, chrome handle. We're gonna spray paint that handle black. I know it's minor, but stuff like that, it's going on the list, so I make sure to get it done. On the list, behind the beat up fender, the inner fender is cracked here. That's not good. So
We will patch that when we have everything out. Drill the hole at the end of the crack thing. We'll weld up what we can, and then we'll also make a big patch for it. And then you can see now the snorkel's not hooked up.
I noticed there's no inner fender, so we bought one of those too. Next thing on the list, this ARB bumper is not for a Toyota Hilux. It's for a Toyota pickup. Yes, the frames are different. I'll show you why. Big old ARB bumper. Someone looks like they gnawed on it with their mom's teeth to make it clear the spring perch mounts. So, bumper's gotta come off so we can clean this nastiness up. And then also, it's missing all the hardware because there's no holes in the frame. So, like, man, what is this thing held on by? It's held on by 2 bolts right here that are going through the core support. And then someone welded 2 little tabs off something else used onto the core support here and put a bolt through it. That's an 8.8, so aka super weak. And then just put a nut on the backside, and they called that good. No, not good. Don't trust that. So we're gonna take the bumper off, cut all the mounts off the bumper, make mounts that come off the frame correctly, make those work with this bumper so it's actually secure. Let's play the what's missing game again. Left and right. Oop, I don't know if I can see it. Let me flip side. See it there. Bump stop. No bump stop. Someone didn't put the bump stop back on when they put the lift kit on it. This thing are the diff breathers. This is the diff breather right now. Yeah, hanging out. And then the rear one, which I'm not super upset with, but we'll just fix it, that's the rear diff breather. One of the front axle shafts is broken. They gave me a new long field because it has long fields in it. They broke one, so they gave me the replacement. So I have to do an axle shaft. Thus, kind of why we're gearing it, because I'm taking it out anyways. Then the hood latch, talked about the hood pins. I'm just gonna take the hood latch off. There's no reason to have it. Next thing is a PCV valve. It's just MIA on this thing, so it just has a hose, kind of like the diff breather. That's the PCV valve. It's just hanging out on top of the intercooler there, just doing its thing. And then I know I said fluids, all the fluids, the brake fluid and the clutch fluid are super, super brown, so those need to be changed out as well. And that, I believe, takes us to the end of the list. I'll have another one that says clutch with a question mark. Clutch is fine, I've been driving it around, but I'm not sure how good it is. So I'm gonna see if my camera can go up in there, like the little clutch fork boot, move it out of the way, see if I can get my camera, like a little snap-on little worm camera, see if I can see the plate and see what it looks like. I may not be able to. I might be pulling a transmission. Cannot find a part number on this thing for a clutch for a Toyota Hilux, and if it crosses over to USDM Toyota truck stuff, not sure, can't find an answer on that, which really sucks because I don't want to have to buy another clutch from Dubai, which leads me to the back seat. The whole back seat, driver fender liner, trail gear, burp replacements, that box full of stuff, all this stuff, more mounts. I think that's the center support bearing, more stuff over there, a lot of stuff into there, plus all the other parts we are waiting on to get here. So far in parts, I'm around $1,200 in parts to fix this, and that doesn't include shipping. But kind of leads me to the conversation we have in next. Like, you're like, man, this thing is rough. I know it's rough. That's why I bought it. It was an ex-OEX truck. They used it for training. It was a training truck. Like the past like 10 years, they bought it from Holland to train. It's trained military, NGOs, 3-letter organizations, civilians, other trainers. This thing's been all over the world and all over the country abused. It's a training truck. That's why it looks the way it looks. It's had trail repair on trail repair that has lasted for years. It's been to multiple shops other than us to get stuff done, which is why some of the repairs are kind of, shady. Talking with one of the OEX guys, not naming names, he said they've had to fire multiple shops because of this truck alone. Not because like parts and stuff like that, it's just, shitty work. And we fell in love with this truck years ago, as like when we did me and Jill did the first video. It's a truly awesome truck. Since it's been here, it sits for days at a time, let the glow plugs warm up, and it fires like that. So the 2L that was in it is no longer in it. It now has a 3L in it. So I'm not talking liters, those are engine codes when we go over here. Engine was rebuilt about 3-4 years ago, right before I got it, to clean the turbo up and stuff on it, by a company out of Fayetteville called Rock Rash. I've been talking to Ian there. He sent me tons of photos of the engine being built. They did an excellent job. Like, the engine has 0 blow-by. It starts up every time. It doesn't smoke. They did an awesome job on the engine build. It's just all the after repairs that have happened to it, and other states that have made this to where it is today. And when we found out it was for sale, we jumped on it. I knew I was getting into a lot of repair on this thing, and still love it. It's going to be a little shop truck. I'm going to go camping in the thing. I'm going to wheel it. I'm going to have a blast in it, and I'll probably keep this one forever. I know I said that about all my Toyotas, but definitely keeping this guy forever. We said this about her little black truck when I saw it actually swapping. We were keeping it forever. When we found this guy was for sale, that thing went up for sale instantly. It's still for sale, by the way. A lot of people are asking about it, and they're like, well, I can go buy a Toyota truck for $3,600. Yeah, but it's not solid axle swap on 35 with all the work that goes. That's a vending process. But yeah, so no finger pointing of who I bought it from, which was OEX, because I knew what I was getting, and I still got a steal on this thing. Not gonna divulge pricing until a later video when we have line at the bottom of what it cost us, but I got it for a steal for what's under the hood and what the truck is. Super happy with it. It puts a smile on my face. I haven't been driving around town because the rear U-joint, like you guys have seen, it's horrible, and I don't want it snapping on me. So it's just in and out of the shop until we find time to work on it. I'm still waiting on parts to come in. I've had to order a bunch of stuff from Dubai because a lot of the stuff just doesn't cross over for this thing. Some of it does, some of it doesn't. It's kind of hit or miss. But yeah, we start actually working on this thing, and we get all the parts in, and probably a mad rush to do it all at once, because like if I'm pulling the front axle apart and I'm doing the diffs and stuff, that's a good day process. So probably a swarm of 3 people on it, do the front diff and the rear diff. And we'll do everything at once more than likely, get on the schedule and knock it out. But overall, I'm happy with it. It's not a mint truck, but I don't want a mint Toyota Hilux. I want a truck that I can go wheeling in and don't care if it gets scratched or another little dent in it or something like that. And it starts every time. Can't beat that. But again, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, do all the things. Appreciate it. See you guys later. Bye. There you go. That's why we love it.